camp, and the Nazis were the Germans. That was the reign by Hitler. In September of 1939, Hitler invaded Poland, which was a country over in Europe, taking over. And his goal was to take over the whole Eastern Europe and have it under his reign, the Hitler reign. And that's where the Nazis started. And these are the people who fought. This is what their camps would look like, very similar to ours. The soldiers were young, like ours. They had guns like ours, and they were fighting for a purpose, just like ours, just like the Civil War. There was always a purpose. There's always a purpose for one side and always a purpose for the other side. And this gives you an idea what a Nazi camp would have looked like. And if you can see, there's a Nazi symbol on some of the vehicles. And today, the Nazi symbol is actually a very disrespectful symbol to the Jews and to the other people because of the fact it had such to do with an impact on the war. But being we're talking about World War II, I want you to notice that the soldiers look the same, but they are dressed differently. They have their cause, their purpose, so they are different. It's quite interesting to see this. I wish I could bring this live to you. But I want you to notice that there is two sides to each war, and both sides have their purpose, and both sides lose. People, they lose in resources, and it affects just not us as personal persons, but it also affects other countries. So take a look at this camp and give you a little idea what their camp might have looked like back in the World War II in 1940, between 1939, because it started, to 1945.
The Russians has come and taken this railroad depot. So they're guarding it, they've set up their patrols, and they're just trying to hold this location. So the Germans are gonna probably try to take this back. So enjoy. It seems that the Germans have managed to take back their depot. So the Germans have won today.
Come in and take places of key importance, like here, for example, the depot would be extremely important because there's a rail line system in there that needs to be kept open for transportation purposes. And as there are saboteurs out there trying to disrupt that type of a thing, it was the field police job to make sure that they didn't do that, to keep saboteurs from disrupting supply. We also use this area because it also had a key form of communication with a telegraph office in there, and the equipment that we would bring in here, we could tap into those lines and use lines that are already existing. And use French or Russian or whatever the whatever system it is, and tap into their phone system, use that there. If we're going to use a more secure telephone lines, we use wire like in that ginormous backpack there, and lay out separate cables for a secure phone line, and use these field phones. We have all the equipment to do office work. Paperwork was, like in any army, was important. So this is where people would come in to check in and make sure that they get to their correct units. So we'd also often type up paperwork. My friend over there has an original German typewriter over there with all the umlauts with the German language that uses that. I've got a Remington portable here. This particular unit was one of about 14 million that were sent off into Europe between the wars. It has a rather infamous background in that, well, both Ernest Hemingway used one of these to type up The Old Man and the Sea, but on the other hand, Adolf Hitler and Rudolf Hess used one of these to type up the infamous Mein Kampf.
Well, kids, I was just sitting down to do some voiceovers for you, and all of a sudden, I got this guy right in front of my face. There we go. I'm a little bit nervous. I don't know what he's going to do, but I better get the heck out of here. Okay, let's go. The war and reenactment, and I have one of the reenactors right out here. And could you tell us what you portray and what you do?
Be happy to.
Talk to us.
My name is Joel Brown, and I portray an intelligence officer with the 332nd Fighter Group. The 332nd Fighter Group were actually the Tuskegee Airmen. Their official name, 332nd Fighter Group. So here in the Dakota County Village, I'm in the barber shop. As you can see, barber chairs and the mirror and the old light lanterns and lights.
Oh, yeah.
So what we do, we portray a 1944 French village. We World War II reenactors. And so I've commandeered, I've taken over the barber shop as a forward observation post.
Wow. And so how long have you been doing this?
Actually, I've been involved nearly 20 years as a reenactor, and I do it because my father was in World War II. Although he was in the regular Army, I'm Army Air Corps. That's my impression, or the person that I portray is from the Army Air Corps. Close to 20 years I've been involved.
Wow. And so now as a communications, what would their responsibility be?
My responsibility, part of it, is to observe the enemy. If they're maybe 2 miles ahead of me and I can see with my binoculars, I pick up my landline field telephone radio, which is a precursor to the cell phone, and I can call in either artillery or Air Corps to make a bomb run or strafing run on the enemy who is not too far away. So I'm in a forward area. And this is my desk. It's actually a records chest. It's a full open desk where it can be portable. And this is a field desk underneath the records chest, or the portable desk. The legs fold up so everything's portable. This is my Army helmet, and these are my Army clothes.
Wow. Now that Army helmet, does it weigh as it sounded like it was heavy.
It is heavy. I'll let you
Oh
know.
my goodness. Kids, it is really heavy, but it was very important.
Very important for that. If there were explosion and shrapnel or particles, your head's protected. It couldn't stop a bullet, but
it couldn't?
no, it couldn't, unless it at an angle.
Oh,
It could
okay.
ricochet, but normally no. Straight on penetration would be fatal.
Oh, well. And how long did your father serve?
My father served from 1942 until 1945.
Wow.
He was from overseas, from Liverpool, England, to North Africa, Casablanca, Morocco. Then from there, he went to Italy. Then from Italy, went to France, and from France, went to Belgium.
Wow.
In those years, from 43
Wow.
42
Oh,
to 45.
it must have be an honor to have a father that served.
Well, it was. And then the great honor was that when the war was over, he became self-employed, and I had access to him. And again, how my interest started, there were 3 kids in my dad's family. I was the only kid who was interested in World War II. And why I tell you that, kids, is that be sure to talk to your folks and ask them their experiences when they were your age, and you'll learn a lot. Even your grandparents, they can tell you things that you would love to hear, because when you grow up, they won't be around. And so if you ask now, write down questions you want to ask, or just say, hey, tell me what it was like when you were 10 years old. And they'll give you wonderful answers that you can keep the rest of your life.
Oh, well, thank you so much for talking to my viewers, and thank you for doing this. It
Oh,
was so
thank
nice
you.
to
My
meet you.
pleasure.
Thank
Okay.
you. Now, a little bit about the soldier. We've met a few soldiers. We saw a few soldiers. Let's talk a little bit about them. In the beginning of the World War II, the average soldier served or drafted was 21 to 35 in the beginning. But as the war went on, that it changed to the average age between 18 and 38. So right out of high school, they could get drafted. And we've heard cases where some 16-year-olds, their parents signed the form stating that they could go off to war, and they could. Parents could give the consent for their young men to serve over in the war. And they did. It was an honor. People wanted to protect our country. As we've heard from our World War II vet, they wanted to protect our country, and they did. They would enlist at 16 years old, not much older than some of you. But now for the German soldier was a whole different scenario. They averaged between the age of 16 and 60, all the way up to 60. Now there is reports, like with many wars, of younger than 16 serving, and that was very common in Germany and Russia and other parts of the world, because they started running out of forces. Due to the massive battles and casualties and the loss of life, guess what? They started running out of people. So the young and the old had to serve both. Now here's one fact for some of you girls. Reports have shown that Russian soldiers could have been as young as 13, and Russian women served on the front lines. They would portray that they were a man, hide with the fact that they were women, and put them in costume or in uniform, and you couldn't tell them, right? And they literally did serve the front lines in Russia. So there's some interesting things for you.
Steve Landgraf,
And you're with the U.S. Marine Corps?
United States Marine Corps, World War II,
Okay.
and we're here to show off what the Marines carried in World War II in the South Pacific. And the war was a much different place than the European war. It was all jungle and island hopping, and jumping on the boats and going to one island to the next. And we have some clothing, equipment, and stuff to show off and educate people about what they carried. And I just wanted to mention that this is not about glorifying war. War is an ugly thing. It's about honoring the men and women who served and did the job for us. So that's what it's all about. Yeah.
And we've been fortunate. We got to meet a World War II vet, and it was very touching to meet him. So what do you do out here yourself?
Again, the Marines over here, we just educate people. We don't do any mock battles or anything. Sorry. And it's just all about showing off what we have, what we've collected over the years, and honoring the men and women who served in the United States Armed Forces.
Well, could you give us just a quick overview what it would have been like for a day for a soldier over there?
It would be, getting up at dark 30 in the morning, getting prepared, eating some small little thing on a Navy ship. Thank you, United States Navy, for hauling us around, and then hitting the beach in a landing craft with maybe 50 other guys, and dispersing, trying to clear the beaches for the rest of the party to come in, and then moving in deeper into the jungle from that point on. you know, and there weren't any roads. You know, you had to make your own road and crawl and, you know, bus, you know, through the jungle, you know. So.
How old was the average soldier?
Yeah, I just talked to a lady today whose dad was in there, and he went in when he was 16 years old.
Wow.
Had his mom sign off. But usually, you know, the high school age kids, 18, 19, 20, and then even the older guys, they'd call them grandpas, you know, because they're old, you know, at 21, 22, 23. And back then they had a draft where they would actually draft, you know, the guys in the service. Unlike today, it's all volunteer.
And draft, could you explain what a draft would be?
A draft would be where when you hit 18 years old, male, you would go to the post office and sign up and register with the United States government. And then at that time that they would actually call you with the numbers. You have a draft card, and then that card was numbers, and then when they called your number, you got to go down to the Selective Service building and actually, you know, sign up, or, you know, they're calling you. And then it went between the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, you know. So it was kind of a scary time.
Do you know what the criteria was not getting drafted? I know my grandfather was a farmer and he didn't get drafted.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but he was also married with kids.
Okay.
So.
Well, that didn't matter too much, especially during the Vietnam era, but we jumped ahead a little bit. But it was a deal where if you had flat feet or World War II, a lot of times they took almost anybody because they needed bodies, you know, whether it be the South Pacific or the Atlantic Theater in Europe. So.
And as we heard from our other veteran, they fought for honor. They fought to protect our freedom. And still today with the soldiers, they still are that way.
Absolutely.
Because there's a lot of kids out there that their parents have served in the latest Iraq war and Afghanistan war. And
the little kids now, their generation. I would be I'm a grandfather, so it'd be my son's children would be the little kids of today, you know. And it's all about knowing and understanding what this is about and loving your country, you know. It's about the stars and stripes, you know.
Alrighty, well, thank you so much for being out here, and thank you to talking to my kids. I appreciate it. 4.5 years of battles. And Germany and Italy surrendered May 7th, 1945. And surrender means they gave up. They said, we're done. We've lost so many men and women. We've lost so much supplies. Our country's ruined. We give up. We surrender. The war with Germany, with us, ended in May 8th, 1945. It ended. And I'm over here taping, and it's May 17th, so I'm taping today. That was almost to the exact day of May 8th. Now that's when Germany finally surrendered to us and said, we're done. We're done fighting with America. We're done fighting. We surrender. And then May 8th. Now this day is known as VE Day. And that what stands for is Victory in Europe, because they surrendered. We had victory. We finally succeeded. We finally defeated the German soldiers. Now, here's another couple dates for you. The war ended August 15th, 1945, when Japan surrendered to the United States. That's when Japan flew the white flag and said, we surrender, we give up. And this day is called VJ Day, which means victory in Japan. So these are a few dates that someday you're going to need to know for history class, and they're very important days in the history of America. Kids, I have the special privilege of introducing this man to you. He is a World War II vet. And what's your name?
Ben Acterling.
And when did you serve?
I was in the Army Medical Corps, the 52nd and the 63rd.
And what years were you over there?
I didn't get overseas. The war ended, so I turned right around and came back from Japan.
Oh, okay.
And then I wound up in Staten Island, New York, as putting on legs, hands, and feet, and arms, and so forth, and glass eyes. And then they transferred me over to Valley Forge, Pennsylvania, coal in the valley. And we did plastic surgery there, which we made monsters.
So you treated a lot of soldiers that were wounded? That you see?
Yeah,
Okay.
that was my job.
And how young were some of these soldiers?
Were the men?
Yeah.
Whatever, 18, 19-year-olds,
Wow.
20s.
Wow.
And then the Air Force was a little bit older.
Okay.
when they were, but they were mostly all burn patients. Yeah, yeah.
So it was similar to, I know for some kids, they have relatives that have served in the latest Gulf War we've had, an Afghanistan war. So some of the injuries were kind of the same?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. And this what they're putting on here, what we call mop-up of the small towns. Boy, it's really real.
Yeah.
So you don't want to miss this one this afternoon. You want to have enough film
I
to
will.
get that one, because they say it's supposed to be better than yesterday. And yesterday was really, really made you think.
Already, what did you get drafted in the service, or did you just decide to join?
No, I joined. All my brothers were in there, so
And give me one reason why you all joined.
take care of our country and make you freedom.
Oh, so you're going to make this girl cry. Well, thank you so much for your
Thank you.
service. Thank you, young man.
You get that on film this afternoon.
I will. Thank you. Take
Bye-bye.
care. Well, there you have it, kids. I'm all teared up. We met a World War II vet, and it's right. They joined to protect us and to protect our freedom. And the soldiers of today do the same thing. Oh, what an inspiration.